Hi, this is Mrs. King, and I'm going to show you how to do today's project. We're going to create our own Seaform sculptures using plastic, but made to look like glass, just like chihulis. We're going to mount them on a piece of paper, sign our name to it, and we're going to put it on the wall to display. I'm going to show you our markers here that we're going to be using. They're permanent markers, so we have to be extra careful with them. They have a chisel tip, which is great because it can make a fat line and a skinny line all at the same time, depending on how you use it. We want to make extra sure we put the caps right back on them because these markers are for everybody in the school to use for this project. And you want to make sure that you keep it away from your fingers and your clothes because it will stain. The yellow marker has a thin tip, and the special silver marker is great for highlights. It shows up on top of the darker colors, which is really great. But you want to use it as a highlight only, not to cover the entire project. Okay, the next piece of material you're going to get is this template. You can see there's 3 circles on it, 1 large and 2 small. You're going to cover it with a plastic film. Now this is plastic film that you melt. It's like shrinky-dink material. If you heat it up in an oven, it's going to curl up and then flatten, but for our purposes we're going to heat it up part way and you're going to get beautiful sculptures like this. So to begin with, we're going to keep the 2 pieces together and take our marker and start outlining the circle. We always want to start with the outline of the circle. And you want to turn your paper as you work so that it's more comfortable for your wrist. If, for instance, you don't turn it, see how my wrist is struggling to get around and I can't see where I'm going. So I always like to turn the page so I can see where I'm going. Now you'll see I'm going to speed this up so you can see how I add the different colors. Now, when you add yellow, you really don't want to put yellow right next to a dark color on the same side because what happens is that red is going to bleed into the yellow and create orange. So the beautiful thing about using the clear film is you flip it over and now the yellow can fill in between the red lines, and guess what? It doesn't bleed because it's not touching the red. It only looks like it's touching the red. So when you use a light color, flip over your sheet of film and you won't have any bleeding issues. And then you can flip it back. Now you notice a little bit of the red got on the template. That's okay. That's what it's there for, to blot up the excess. When you're done with the yellow, flip it back over and you'll be ready to go on with the rest of your colors. And you'll see here I'm just fast forwarding, showing you how I create the design layer by layer. You don't want to rush it, just take your time, decide each element, each color as you go along. I'm using a circular pattern. You don't have to. Again, there's the radiant lines, and here I'm showing how you can use more of the radiant lines if you'd like to create a different design. Just layering the different markers on it, and you can see I'm using the pointed part of the chisel and the thick part of the chisel. Again, I'm rotating my paper so that all my lines are even. I flipped it back over and filled in the yellow again on the back side, adding more detail as we go along. Finally, I'm going to use the metallic silver. You can't see really well on the film, but it adds a nice little highlight that'll show up when we shrink it. And finally, when you're all finished, you want to cut out your circle, and then we're going to start adding heat. Okay, we're going to put the plastic over a metal sheet because it's really hot and we don't want to burn anything up. Only the adults are going to use the heat gun. It's kind of like a hair dryer, but it's a lot hotter. And this is time-lapse, so it's going more quickly than what's going to happen in front of your eyes. But you can see the plastic still, it moves really quickly, so we don't really have a lot of control over the shape. We kind of have to let the plastic do its thing. Manipulate it a little bit, but it's up to the plastic and the heat with what's going to come out. And when you're done, it's going to look something like this. Then you're going to do your 2 other circles, cut them out, save your scraps because we're going to use them later on. and heat up the second and third circles. Then you're going to take your mounting paper, your two squares, glue one on the other, and trim off the white so it's even with the black square, and it gives it a nice look when you're mounting your plastic. Then you're going to decide where you're going to position them on the piece of paper. Then you're going to go to the hot glue station and have your sculptures glued onto your piece of paper. You've got to be really careful when we mount them because the plastic melts really easily and the hot glue is hot. So this one, I put a little bit too much glue and we got a little bit of a hole, but it still worked. So when you're finished, you'll have 3 pieces. You're going to sign your name with the silver, put the date, the month and the year, and you're finished. Okay, now we're going to work on the scrap pieces. If you have time, you're going to take your scrap pieces and you're just going to add some color to them. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but you can see where I've kept them really long. And we want to keep them long so that when they melt, they can curl and create unique shapes that are kind of spindly. And when we're finished, if everybody does 2 or 3 shapes, we can put them together and we'll create a class sculpture, like Chihuly's work. So save your scraps. This is what inspired me to gather our scrap pieces and create our own sculpture.